If I had known saying yes would make him look at me like that, I probably wouldn't have hesitated so long. Okay, that's a lie. I still would have said yes, but maybe with a little more preparation. Because nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for how real it would start to feel. It all started the week before Christmas. I was in the middle of watching Love Actually for the fourth time, halfway through a box of cookies I definitely didn't plan on sharing, when my phone buzzed. It was Caleb. "You home?" the text read. That alone wasn't unusual. We were close, had been since we met 4 years ago at our friend Olivia's rooftop party. He was loud, charming, could hold a room without trying, while I was the guy leaning against the railing with a drink, trying not to be awkward. Somehow, it worked. We clicked. He was also straight. Or at least, that's what I thought. More on that later. "I need a huge favor," he texted again. Like, biggest one ever. That's when he called. No warning. No context. Just jumped straight in. So my family's doing this big New Year's thing at the lake house. Huge deal. Extended family. Catered. The whole thing. And they've been writing me non-stop about still being single. My cousin's bringing her fiancé. My brother just got married last month. I need a buffer. I laughed. "You want me to fake date you for New Year's?" "Not date," he said, and I swear I could hear him grinning through the phone. "Engaged." I choked on my cookie. "You're kidding." "I wish I was," he said, but I told them I was seeing someone seriously just to get them off my back. And then it kind of snowballed. My mom asked when I was going to propose, and I panicked and said I already did. So yeah, everyone thinks I'm bringing my fiancé to the party. "And you thought of me?" I asked, not sure whether to be flattered or mildly insulted. "You're my best friend, man," he said. "You're already close with Olivia, and my sister loves you. You'd sell it better than anyone." I didn't answer right away. Part of me wanted to laugh it off, say he was insane and that no one would buy it. But another part, one I didn't usually let speak, wanted to say yes before he even finished asking. Because the truth was, I'd been in love with Caleb for years. "Come on," he said, quieter now. "One night. I'll owe you for life." That last part made me smile. "Okay," I said, "but you better get me a fake ring at least." "You'll have the fanciest cubic zirconia $12 can buy," he promised. The next week was a whirlwind. We met up twice to get our story straight. How we met, a spontaneous coffee shop conversation, how long we'd been together, a year and 3 months, how I proposed, Central Park after a food truck date. He even printed fake engagement photos from that time we went to a wedding in Vermont and looked way too comfortable in suits. The whole thing should have felt ridiculous. But when we walked into that party together, his hand sliding casually around my waist like it belonged there, it didn't feel fake at all. Everyone believed it. His aunt hugged me. His cousin grilled me on wedding plans. His mom teared up and whispered, "We were starting to wonder if he'd ever settle down." But the weirdest part, Caleb didn't seem to be acting. And when the clock hit midnight and he leaned in like it was the most natural thing in the world, when his lips brushed mine, slow and sure, I forgot we were pretending. I forgot everything except how he felt against me. I told myself it was for the show, for his family, that it didn't mean anything. But the look he gave me right after, yeah, that's when I knew something had changed. I didn't even realize I was holding my breath until he pulled away. The kiss was soft, brief, not exaggerated like you'd expect from someone trying to sell it to their family. But it was deliberate. There was intention behind it. A beat of quiet between us when he lingered. Just for half a second. Too long. And then the noise of the party rushed back in. People clapping, laughing, shouting, "Happy New Year!" as confetti rained down in the living room. I stepped back automatically, scanning the room like I needed something to focus on. Anything to pull me out of my own head. Caleb's hand stayed on my back. "You okay?" he asked, leaning in so only I could hear him. I nodded too quickly. "Yeah, just loud." He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Come on, let's grab some air." We slipped out the sliding doors to the deck. The cold air hit us instantly, sharp and quiet compared to the chaos inside. Snow lined the edges of the wooden railing, and you could still hear the party muffled behind the glass. Caleb shoved his hands in his coat pockets. That went well, huh? I laughed under my breath. You mean the standing ovation we got from your mom? He grinned. She did say we're her favorite couple now. Sorry to Olivia and Patrick. Not sorry, I muttered, and we both laughed. The tension broke, just a little, but then the silence settled in again. The kind that always shows up when something real is dangling in the air, waiting to be acknowledged. I stared out at the lake, frozen over and reflecting the soft glow of the string lights above us. That kiss? Yeah? It felt real, he said, finishing it for me. I looked at him then. He was watching me carefully, like he wasn't sure how much to admit. And for once, I didn't try to hide what I was feeling. Yeah? I said. It did. Caleb stepped closer, and even though the air was freezing, I felt warm all over. I wasn't acting, he said quietly, at least not for that part. I blinked, heart suddenly racing. What are you saying? He shrugged. But it was the most unsure I'd ever seen him. I don't know. I didn't plan on this. I liked it. Being with you. Not fake, not for a show. Just us. My throat tightened. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words caught in my chest. Then he added, You remember that night in Vermont? When we danced outside the reception because it was too crowded inside? Of course I remembered. It was cold as hell, and we were tipsy off champagne, swaying under the stars like two idiots. You looked at me like I was the only person in the world, he said. And I remember thinking, shit, if this was real, I wouldn't be mad about it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Then why didn't you say anything? Because I thought I'd ruin everything, he said. I figured you didn't feel the same, and I didn't want to screw up what we had. I stared at him for a long time. You're an idiot, he smiled softly. Yeah, but so are you. I laughed then, partly out of disbelief, partly because the feeling of relief was overwhelming. I've had feelings for you for years, Caleb. Years. You think I'd agree to fake a damn engagement if I didn't? His expression shifted, something in his chest unclenching. So, he said, inching closer, what if we just drop the fake part? I didn't answer. I just stepped forward and kissed him again. And this time, it wasn't for anyone but us. The second kiss didn't have an audience. No cheering relatives, no cameras, no clinking glasses. Just snow falling quietly in the dark, the lake house behind us humming with the buzz of New Year's celebrations, and his lips pressed softly to mine like it was the only thing he'd wanted to do all night. He didn't rush it. There was no grand gesture, no tongue or movie-style dip, just warmth, quiet, and the gentle press of his hand to the side of my neck like he wasn't sure I was real. When we pulled apart, his forehead rested against mine. This feels... he started, then trailed off. Yeah, I said, barely breathing. It does. We stood there like that for a minute. Maybe more. I couldn't tell. Time had gone a little fuzzy. Eventually, he pulled back, shivering a little. All right, fiancé, we should probably go back inside before someone comes looking for us. Yeah, I said, already missing the feel of him close. Can't have your mom thinking we broke off the fake engagement on the deck. He grinned. Not a chance. You saw how excited she was. You break my fake heart, and she'll kill you. Back inside, nothing had changed. The music was still thumping. His cousins were still dancing like it was 2012, and trays of mini sliders were being passed around like peace offerings. But everything felt different. We moved through the room like nothing had happened, like we hadn't just kissed under the stars and admitted something neither of us had dared to before. But the glances we kept exchanging said otherwise. His fingers brushed mine when we reached for the same soda. His shoulder leaned a little too close when we stood side by side chatting with his uncle. He didn't pull away. Later that night, we snuck away to the guest room his mom had set up for us. One bed, of course. I sat on the edge while he changed in the bathroom, trying to process the last 6 hours. This whole thing had started as a joke, an easy out. Just a dumb lie to get through one awkward family gathering. But it didn't feel like a lie anymore. He came out of the bathroom in sweatpants and a long-sleeved tee, hair damp from washing his face. "I stole your toothbrush by accident," he said, sheepish. "Sorry." "It's fine," I said, watching him settle onto the bed beside me. I think at this point, swapping toothbrushes is the least confusing thing we've done tonight. He laughed and nodded. "Yeah." We sat in silence for a moment, not quite looking at each other. "So?" I started. "So? Where does this leave us?" He looked down at his hands. "I don't know." That's the truth. I mean, it's not like I just realized I liked you tonight. I've had feelings. For a while. I just didn't know what to do with them. I turned to face him. "You ever dated a guy before?" He shook his head. "No, not officially. But that doesn't mean I haven't thought about it." "And us?" "That's the part one kept trying to avoid," he said. "Because if I let myself think about it, it didn't feel casual. You've never been that for me. Even when we were just friends. You've always meant more." My chest ached in that good, painful way, like being cracked open but not broken. Just seen. "I always thought you were off limits," I said. I told myself that 100 times, maybe more. "And now?" he asked, finally meeting my eyes. "I don't want to pretend anymore," I said. "Not with you." He leaned in again, slower this time, like he was giving me the chance to pull away. I didn't. The kiss was deeper, not rushed, not frantic, just deliberate and warm, like we were finally letting something breathe that had been trapped between us for years. When we pulled back, we were both quiet. "Let's figure this out," he said, voice low. "We'll take it slow, but let's not call it fake anymore." I nodded, heart pounding. Okay, we slid under the covers, staying on our own sides but closer than we would have been yesterday. Our shoulders touched. His hand found mine beneath the blanket. It stayed there. Neither of us said goodnight. We didn't need to. Waking up next to Caleb was surreal. Not in a dramatic, "I can't believe this is happening" kind of way, but in the quiet sense of familiarity that somehow felt brand new. We'd shared beds before, crashed together after parties, late movie nights, road trips where we didn't feel like paying for 2 hotel rooms. But this was different. His hand was still in mine. I blinked at the ceiling for a few minutes before glancing over. He was still asleep, breathing evenly, lashes resting against his cheeks, hair a complete mess. And for once, I let myself look. Just take it all in without guilt. No pretending, no shame, just him. And yeah, my heart did that dumb flutter thing it always did around him. Except now I didn't have to hide it. Eventually, he stirred, stretching slightly before turning toward me, eyes still half-lidded. "Morning." His voice was thick with sleep, rough in a way that hit somewhere low in my stomach. "Hey," I said, smiling. "You drooled a little." He groaned and flopped back onto the pillow. "Don't ruin this moment." I laughed softly. Too late. He peeked at me through one eye. "You still here?" "Depends. You still want me to be?" He didn't answer right away. He just reached over and laced our fingers again. I really do. That silence between us, the kind that used to feel awkward, felt full now. Full of unspoken thoughts, a little fear, maybe even some regret that we hadn't done this sooner. Eventually, we dragged ourselves out of bed and rejoined the world. The post-party vibe had mellowed into lazy breakfasts, sleepy conversations, and Caleb's cousin hung over on the couch watching HGTV. We played it cool. We had to. No grand coming out, no, "Hey, guess what? This isn't a joke anymore." Just quiet glances across the room, a brush of hands when no one was looking, But it wasn't lost on me that his sister caught it. She cornered me while I was pouring coffee in the kitchen. "You and Caleb," I froze. "What about us?" She tilted her head, arms crossed. "I'm not stupid. Last night wasn't just acting." I glanced over my shoulder, but the kitchen was empty. She leaned in. "I'm not judging. I just want to know if you're serious." I met her eyes. "I am. I didn't mean to be at first, but yeah, I'm in this." She studied me for a beat, then nodded. "Good. He's an idiot, but he's my idiot. Don't break his heart." I smiled. "I'm trying not to." The rest of the weekend was a blur. We drove back to the city on January 2nd with the windows cracked and a Spotify playlist humming low between us. Neither of us said the word boyfriend. We didn't define it, but the shift was clear in the way his hand rested on my thigh during red lights. How he looked at me during lunch like he couldn't believe I was real. Back at his place, he helped me carry in my overnight bag. We stood in the entryway like we weren't sure how to say goodbye, even though we lived 10 minutes apart. "You want to stay for a bit?" he asked, rubbing the back of his neck. I gave him a look. "Dude, I just spent 3 days with you and your family." "Right. But that was pretend." "Sort of." I stepped inside without answering. He grinned and shut the door. We didn't talk about what we were right away. Didn't call it anything, but we stopped pretending. We kept hanging out like we always had. Movie nights, grocery runs, working side by side in coffee shops. But now there was kissing, and hand-holding, and waking up with his legs tangled in mine. A few days later, Olivia invited us to her birthday dinner. I was about to say no. I wasn't ready to explain what was going on, but Caleb interrupted me. "Tell her we'll be there." He looked so sure, so casual. "Are we doing this?" I asked later, once we were alone again. He paused. "I don't want to hide it." That simple. That clear. And just like that, something I thought would be a lie turned into the most honest thing I'd ever done. You know that moment when everything feels a little too perfect? That's where I was 2 weeks after the party, on Caleb's couch, legs resting across his lap, watching him beat me again at Mario Kart while I pretended I didn't care. Except I did care. Not about the game. About him. About the fact that I was this stupid kind of happy that made everything feel brighter, sharper, like I'd finally exhaled after holding my breath for years. And that's probably why I didn't see it coming when it all got messy. It started with a text from my ex, Ben. "So this is why you stopped replying? You're engaged?" I blinked at the screen. My heart dropped. I hadn't even posted about it. But apparently, someone else had. Caleb's mom had uploaded a group photo from New Year's, with the caption, "So happy to finally meet my future son-in-law," and tagged us both. I hadn't even noticed. I put my phone down, trying not to spiral. Caleb looked over, concerned. "Everything good?" I hesitated. "Yeah, just someone from before saw that photo your mom posted." He frowned. "You mean the engagement one?" "Yeah." There was a pause. "Do you want her to take it down?" "No," I said too quickly. "It's fine. Just caught me off guard." But it stuck in my chest like a splinter. Not because of Ben, but because suddenly our little world didn't feel so insulated. The more real this got between us, the more it was creeping into other parts of my life. My past, my job, my family, and I realized we hadn't talked about any of that. The next morning, Caleb surprised me with coffee before my work meeting. He handed me my order, black, 2 sugars, always, and kissed the side of my face like it was the most natural thing in the world. I wanted to hold on to that moment. Pocket it. Keep it. But later that night, when I asked if he'd told anyone else, his friends, coworkers, he hesitated. "I haven't really brought it up," he said, avoiding my eyes. "It's not that I don't want to. I just haven't figured out how yet." I nodded, trying not to let it sting. "Okay." "Dill," he said, sitting next to me. "This isn't about hiding you. I'm still figuring myself out. I've never done this before. Never been with a guy. Never had to explain that to people who think they know me. I get it, I said. And I did. But part of me still felt that old familiar ache, the one from years ago, when I liked him in secret while he dated girls. I thought I'd moved past that, but now it was back. Just quieter, more adult, more complicated. I just need time, he said. I'm not asking you to wait forever. Just don't give up on me yet. I nodded, softer this time. I'm not going anywhere. But it planted a seed of doubt. The next week, I went to dinner with my sister and, without thinking, mentioned Caleb in a way that made her eyebrows raise. You're dating him? She asked, halfway through her wine. Yeah, I said. Kind of. It's new. She smiled, but it was cautious. I just don't want you to get hurt again. I won't, I said, but I wasn't sure I believed it. Caleb and I kept going. Movie nights. Dinners. Sleeping over at each other's places like it was routine. But I couldn't shake the sense that we were walking on a line. Me waiting for him to cross fully into this with me, and him unsure if he was ready. And then, one night, it broke. We were at a bar with some of his friends. One of them, a guy named Matt, made a joke about Caleb always being a ladies' man. Caleb laughed and didn't correct him, didn't say a word. I didn't expect him to make a grand announcement, but I also didn't expect to feel like a stranger sitting next to him. Later, when we got back to his place, I was quiet. He noticed. What's up? He asked. You didn't say anything. About what? About us. He exhaled, dragging a hand through his hair. Not this again. What do you mean, not this again? It's not nothing, Caleb. He stared at me. You want me to out myself in front of my drunk friends in a crowded bar? No, I said. I just wanted to feel like you weren't pretending I didn't exist. He didn't say anything. I need to know if we're in this together, I said quietly. I'm trying, he said. Isn't that enough? I don't know, I whispered. I really don't. He sat down hard on the edge of the bed. I care about you. I want this. I'm still scared. So am I said. But I'm still here. And then we just sat there, silent, unmoving, on opposite ends of the bed, hearts pounding, unsure how to close the gap. The thing about silence is that it says more than most words ever could. We sat on opposite ends of his bed for what felt like forever, not fighting exactly, but not fixing it either. I wanted to cross the space between us, reach for his hand, tell him it was okay, that I understood, but I was tired of being the only one doing the reaching, so I stood. I think I'm gonna head home, I said quietly. Caleb looked up. You don't have to. I know, I said, but I think I need to. He didn't try to stop me. That was what hurt most. He just nodded, quietly, like part of him knew I wasn't walking away to punish him. I was walking away to protect myself. I packed my overnight bag in silence, and he watched, but didn't move, didn't speak. As I grabbed my coat from the chair, he finally said, Dylan. I turned. I'm scared of screwing this up. You already are, I said, not out of spite, but honesty. But so am I. And then I left. The air outside felt colder than it should have. Or maybe that was just me. Raw and too exposed after weeks of pretending this could be easy. I walked a few blocks before calling an Uber, trying to keep my breath steady. When I got home, I didn't cry. I just sat on the couch in the dark, letting the silence settle around me like armor. He didn't text that night, or the next day, and I didn't reach out either. A few days passed. I went through the motions. Work, friends, staring at my phone like it might light up if I stared long enough. Olivia noticed something was off immediately. You okay? She asked, plopping down beside me during our usual Friday coffee shop ritual. I shrugged. Not really. Is it Caleb? Yeah. She nodded like she already knew. You want to talk about it? I don't even know where to start. It's like, we had this thing, this good thing. But then reality caught up, and he froze. I keep wondering if I asked for too much. Dylan, she said firmly, Asking someone to acknowledge you in public isn't too much. Wanting to feel secure isn't too much. I stared at my coffee, the foam long since collapsed. Then, why do I feel like I broke something? Maybe you didn't, she said. Maybe you just gave him the space to figure out if he's ready to show up for you. That part stayed with me. Is he going to show up? The next week was quiet. A few random texts, nothing serious. No check-ins, no apologies. I hated how quickly my mind filled the silence with worst-case scenarios. I told myself I was being dramatic, but the ache didn't lie. Then, out of nowhere, a knock on my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened it, Caleb was standing there. No smile. No practiced charm. Just him, in a hoodie and jeans, holding a small white paper bag. "Can I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside without a word. He walked into my apartment like he wasn't sure he was still welcome, and honestly, I wasn't sure either. He handed me the bag. "What is this?" He scratched the back of his neck. "A cinnamon roll. From that bakery you love. I remembered you always used to get one when you were in a bad mood." "That's a low blow," I muttered, but my fingers were already crinkling the paper. "I owe you an apology," he said. "I shut down. You were trying to build something real, and I got scared and pulled back." "I wasn't asking for a parade, Caleb. Just for you to show me you wanted this outside of rooms where no one's watching." "I know," he said. "And I do. I want this. With you. I needed to realize that the fear doesn't go away. It's always going to be there. But so is the part of me that wants to hold your hand in public, that wants to tell people you're mine." My throat tightened. "So what changed?" He stepped closer. The silence. Being away from you. Knowing I could lose this because I was too afraid to let the world see what I already feel. I didn't say anything. He reached for my hand. "Let me start over. No lies. No pretending." "You really ready for that?" He nodded. "Yeah, if you'll let me try." I looked down at our hands. His fingers were warm. Familiar. And finally, I felt steady again. The cinnamon roll sat half-eaten on the coffee table between us, while Caleb and I curled up on opposite ends of the couch, not quite touching, but close enough that it didn't feel like space anymore. More like room to breathe, room to start again. "I told my sister," he said suddenly. My head turned. "Told her what?" "That we weren't faking it anymore." I blinked. "Wait, really?" "She asked if I was serious about you," he said, staring at the floor. "And I said yes, that I'm more serious about you than I've ever been about anyone." My heart clenched in that too big way again. "What did she say?" "She told me she'd already assumed. Apparently we're not as subtle as we think." I snorted. "We never were." He gave me this look, soft, a little sheepish. "I want to do this right, for real, not just in secret, not when it's convenient." I nodded, letting that sink in. Over the next week, things shifted again. Not dramatically, but meaningfully. We went out to dinner one night, and he reached for my hand across the table. He introduced me to a friend as someone important, and didn't flinch when that friend raised an eyebrow. We walked through a bookstore, and he kissed the side of my head while I pointed out a novel I loved. It was slow, tentative, but it was real. And then came the second wave of complication, his mom. We hadn't really talked about her since the party. I knew she thought we were still engaged, but neither of us had addressed what to do about that part of the lie. So when she called to say she was planning a visit to the city, Caleb's eyes widened, like he'd forgotten that pretending had real consequences. "She wants to grab lunch," he said, voice tight. "With both of us." I paused. "Do we tell her the truth?" "I don't know," he admitted. "She was so happy. I don't want to disappoint her." "Caleb," I said gently, "we're not engaged. She deserves to know that part." "I know," he said. What if she thinks we were faking all of it?" "We weren't," I said. "You know that. I know that. She'll see it if it's real." He was quiet for a long time. Then, "Okay, let's tell her." So we did. The lunch was awkward. His mom wore her pearls and ordered a salad she barely touched. Caleb did most of the talking, explaining how it started as a lie, but ended in something real. He stumbled a little. His voice cracked when he admitted he hadn't been honest with himself for a long time. She was quiet through most of it. Then, finally, she reached across the table and took his hand. "I love you," she said. "I don't care how it started. I care that you're happy." We both exhaled at the same time. She looked at me then. "Just don't break his heart." "I won't," I said, and I meant it. After lunch, we walked a few blocks in the cold before ducking into a quiet bar for a drink. Caleb looked lighter, brighter, like the weight he'd been carrying for years had finally been set down. "I never thought I'd be here," he said, swirling his glass, "walking next to a guy I'm in love with, and not pretending it's something else." My breath caught. "What?" he asked, turning to me. "You said you're in love with me." He blinked. "Yeah, I did. And?" He leaned in, lips brushing against my ear. "Say it back." I smiled, heart racing. "I love you." And it wasn't terrifying. It was just true. Spring hit the city like a sigh of relief. The snow turned to slush, people started smiling again, and every coffee shop had a new iced drink they were weirdly proud of. It was the kind of season that made you want to start fresh. Throw open your windows, rearrange your furniture, maybe finally admit that the guy who used to be your fake fiancé was now the most important person in your life. That's where I was. 3 months after New Year's, Caleb and I were still figuring things out. There were still little bumps, conversations we hadn't had yet, habits we were learning to unlearn. But the difference now was that we faced them together. His hand always found mine under the table when we were with friends. I started keeping an extra toothbrush at his place. Then a drawer. Then a key. We didn't rush it. We didn't force it. But slowly, surely, we built something that wasn't based on pretending anymore. One Sunday afternoon, we were lying on his bed, windows open, the breeze pushing in like a soft reminder that we'd made it through the hard part. He had his arm draped across my chest, fingers tracing lazy circles. "You ever think about how weird this all started?" he asked. I chuckled. "Every time I look at that vending machine ring on my dresser." He grinned. "You still have it?" "Of course I do," I said. "That thing kick-started my entire romantic life. It's basically sacred." He was quiet for a second. Then he said, "You know what's funny? I think about that night all the time. The party, the kiss, the way you looked at me afterward, like you were scared to believe it was real." "I was," I admitted, "because it felt too good." He turned slightly so he could look at me. "And now?" "Still feels too good," I said. "But I'm learning how to believe it." He nodded like he understood completely. Because he did. Then he sat up, leaned over to the nightstand and pulled something out. My heart stopped for a second, until I saw it. The ring, the same dumb silver vending machine ring we'd started all of this with. "I think we should make it real," he said. "Not dramatic, not performative, just calm and sure and full of heart." I stared at him. "You're proposing to me with a $2 ring?" "Inflation," he said. "It was $2.50 this time." I laughed, eyes stinging a little. "You're serious?" He nodded. "Not asking you to plan a wedding tomorrow. Just asking if we can keep building this. For real. No pretending. No labels we don't want. Just you and me. Like we were always supposed to be." I didn't need time to think. I took the ring and slid it onto my finger. "It was always real," I said. He kissed me then. No audience, no performance. Just us. Finally, just us. And that, somehow, felt like the most honest beginning we could have asked for.